belies the hours I've sat in police stations trying to get people taken down, belies the amount of time I've sat next to victims in a courtroom because they'll only give their evidence because I'm sat next to them. Whenever it's in the news, because it comes around periodically, I send out messages to all of the young, most of them aren't girls anymore, many of them are young women who I've worked with over the years, to just check their own. Absolutely. When somebody like Nick Timothy, who worked in the Home Office for decades and did nothing about this, it is a disgraceful thing to say by people who have done nothing.
Attention seekers, hypocrites, and political double standards, buckle up, because we're about to dive into a story that has it all. At the center of this whirlwind is Jess Phillips, the Labour MP who's been crying victim all week. But here's the kicker. As Phillips rails against Elon Musk's comments, her own past is coming back to bite her. From blocking justice for grooming gang victims to hurling accusations of her own, we're about to expose the shocking contradictions that have left both her allies and opponents questioning her credibility. Get ready for a rollercoaster ride through the murky world of political hypocrisy. Jess Phillips has found herself at the center of a political firestorm, playing the role of the victim after Elon Musk's recent comments about her. The Labour MP has been quick to paint herself as a champion of women's rights, facing down online abuse with defiance. But as we dig deeper into this saga, a more complex picture emerges. In the wake of Musk's accusations, Phillips has been vocal about her outrage. She's described his claims as ridiculous and vowed not to be silenced. It's a stance that's garnered her sympathy from some quarters, with supporters rallying around her as a target of online harassment.
Girls who I've sat for 9 hours at a police station while they're giving their evidence, only to be told no further action. Being in the spotlight like this and the intimation of what Elon Musk is, the disinformation, as I believe the Prime Minister referred to it as, has put out about me, it's in danger. Years I have met with, I have supported for a number of years girls who are still being groomed. I've travelled across the country in the middle of the night, something that I very much doubt that Kemi Badenoch or Chris Philp have done.
But is this the whole story? As Phillips rails against Musk's comments, questions are being raised about her own past actions. Critics are pointing to her handling of grooming gang issues, particularly her decision not to hold a government-led inquiry into grooming gangs in Oldham. It's a move that's led to accusations of blocking justice for victims, a far cry from her current position as a crusader against online abuse. Phillips has defended her stance, arguing that local investigations are more likely to encourage victims to come forward. But for many, this explanation falls flat. The contrast between her current outrage and her past actions is stark, leaving some to wonder if her commitment to victims is as steadfast as she claims. The public reaction to this war of words has been mixed, to say the least. While some continue to support Phillips, viewing her as a victim of unwarranted attacks, others are less sympathetic. They see a politician who's quick to claim victimhood when it suits her, but whose past actions tell a different story. This controversy has reignited debates about grooming gangs and political responsibility. Opposition politicians are calling for action, demanding answers about Phillips' past decisions. It's a pressure that's only likely to increase as more details come to light. But here's where things get really interesting. As Phillips fights back against Musk's accusations, her own past statements are coming back to haunt her. There's a growing sense that we've only scratched the surface of this story, and that Phillips's credibility is about to face an even tougher test.
And what I saw happen in Telford is the exact opposite of what I have seen happen because of the National ICSA inquiry for the last 2 years since it came out. To get a young woman literally while she was bleeding from a battering from her groomers, or council officers change the way that they deal with things. I saw victims brought in to that council as independent advisors to get the recommendations to take her to a place of safety. Every decision I make comes from that experience and their voices.
In the age of social media, politicians are learning the hard way that their digital footprints are permanent. Jess Phillips, the Labour MP who's been making headlines for her clash with Elon Musk, is the latest to fall victim to this harsh reality. A tweet from her past has resurfaced, and it's not just any tweet. It's one that's throwing her entire narrative into question. The tweet in question: "Today, I saw George Galloway on the beach. I told him he was a rape apologist." Another thing ticked off of the list. This digital ghost has come back to haunt Phillips at the worst possible moment, as she fights to maintain her credibility in the wake of Musk's accusations. The language in Phillips's tweet bears an uncanny resemblance to the very accusations she's been railing against. It's a stark reminder of how quickly the tables can turn in the world of politics. One moment you're the accuser, the next you're the accused. The irony is not lost on the public, who have been quick to point out the hypocrisy. The reaction to this revelation has been swift and brutal. One user didn't mince words. "Oh dear you, I think at this point you should just resign. You've made yourself look like a massive hypocrite on top of blocking justice for Muslim rape gang victims." It's a damning indictment, not just of Phillips's tweet, but of her entire political stance. But the hits keep coming. Another user chimed in with a particularly scathing comment.
Belies the hours I've sat in police stations trying to get people taken down. Belies the amount of time I've sat next to victims in a courtroom because they'll only give their evidence because I'm sat next to them. Whenever it's in the news, because it comes around periodically, I send out messages to all of the young. Most of them aren't girls anymore. Many of them are young women who I've worked with over the years, to just check their age. Absolutely. When somebody like Nick Timothy, who worked in the Home Office for decades and did nothing about this, it is a disgraceful thing to say by people who have done nothing.
Jess Phillips has a habit of lying through her teeth, but now I think about it's more gums than teeth. It's clear that Phillips's credibility is taking a serious hit, and her supporters are struggling to defend her in the face of such blatant contradictions. This incident isn't isolated. It's part of a growing trend in British politics, where social media history is becoming a powerful weapon. Politicians are finding that their past words can come back to bite them, often at the most inopportune moments. It's a stark reminder of the need for consistency in public life, something that seems to be in short supply these days. But here's where things get even more interesting. George Galloway, the subject of Phillips's tweet, has fired back. He stated, "Even more hilarious, it was a lie. She said not one word to me and never has." This direct contradiction adds another layer to the story, raising serious questions about Phillips's honesty and integrity. The Jess Phillips saga has exposed a festering wound in British politics, the perilous dance of hypocrisy and selective outrage. As public figures navigate the treacherous waters of social media, their past words and actions become ticking time bombs, ready to detonate at any moment. This controversy raises unsettling questions about accountability in the digital age. Who's keeping tabs on those who claim to be our moral compass? The scrutiny faced by Phillips is not an isolated incident. Studies show that a significant number of politicians have found themselves in hot water due to their social media history. It's a stark reminder that in the world of politics, your past is always just a tweet away from becoming your present. As the dust settles on this particular storm, one thing remains crystal clear. The court of public opinion is always in session, and its verdicts can be swift and merciless.